Well, hello friends, and welcome to another Ask Zach. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about my favorite guitar books. So I had a number of requests for that, and so that's what we're going to do. I want to give a shout out to Duke Levine, who was kind enough to send me this T-shirt. I did a True Tone Lounge interview with him a couple of weeks ago, and it was just a huge thrill. I'll admit I'm a bit of a Duke Levine fanboy. I've enjoyed his music since the early 90s. His Country Soul Guitar album just really blew my mind that someone could play that well and have good melodies and good, tone and everything, because most guitar players would do these look at me, look at me, look at me, kind of instrumental records, and Duke Levine did these, and continues to do these albums that are more like, soundtrack work, and he's so musical. And so, yeah, it's a thrill to interview Duke, and thank you, Duke, for the T-shirt. So, I guess also, of course, if you've been enjoying the show, please subscribe. If you've already subscribed and you'd like to support the show, go to askzac.com. You can go to the store. We've got T-shirts and mugs and hats, and also I've got a tip jar, and the information's in the description of the video if you want to just do it that way, and I appreciate that. So, let's get on to the books. So, I guess, being that I've written for Vintage Guitar Magazine, for 15 years, and of course my column's Ask Zach, and the name of this channel is Ask Zach, people have been writing in and asking me, what were some important, guitar books, guitar reference books that really, that you gleaned a lot from, changed you, influenced you. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's do it. So book number one, this is my first guitar book, and I found it at the Houston Galleria. I was on a 8th grade trip up there from Kingsville. We went up to Houston to go to it wasn't Six Flags. It must have been Astroworld. So we went there, and we got to spend some time in the Houston Galleria, which of course is a gigantic. It's not gigantic by today's standards, but a huge shopping mall that had a ice skating rink, down at the bottom. And anyway, I went to a bunch of the bookstores, and I found this. And so it wasn't used, but it kind of wasn't in great condition, but it was in a regular, new bookstore. And so this is I guess this is a second edition copy of this book that originally came out in the mid-'70s, and it's just called The Guitar Book. It's by Tom Wheeler. And if you don't know who Tom Wheeler is, the late Tom Wheeler, Tom Wheeler was one of the greatest guitar or music journalists of all time. And he wrote some fantastic books. He was the editor at Guitar Player magazine during what I think was their heyday. And what a great writer and a great person, a person with a lot of humility and a lot of just love for music. So the Guitar Book, really gave me my first look at different guitars, and also, what different guitar players. It's like I didn't know who Jimmy Bryant was, or I barely knew who B.B. King was. And this talked about guitar construction. It talked about history of Gibson and Fender. Even had stuff about effects. Had a lot of pictures from George Gruen of vintage guitars, which of course that market was just kind of getting going. It talked about everything from B-benders to truss rods and bridges, and it's a great book. I mean, it's kind of, again, being that it was written in the mid-'70s, it doesn't have any modern information, but for its time, this is a horribly groundbreaking book. I mean, this was one of the first books on guitars, and that covered electric guitars and players and such. And so this book, of course, you can see that I've kind of worn it out. It's had to been taped back together, and you can still find copies of this on eBay or Amazon. This is a great. This kind of started it all. And man, what an amazing writer Tom Wheeler is, and what a great job he did. So, The Guitar Book. Next up, this book really helped fuel my insanity when it comes to the Telecaster. And I remember finding this at a little music store in Corpus Christi, Texas, one that mainly carried band instruments, but they carried a fair amount of music-related books and, of course, sheet music. And so I guess I'm guessing the distributor, which Hal Leonard, was able to get these books, into a lot of maybe not even electric guitar friendly environments. And so this is the A.R. Duchossoir book on the Fender Telecaster. And this book is what, if you're into Telecasters, you have to own this. If you don't own it, order it now. And I'm going to put a link, to, Amazon or whoever, where you can order this book. And if you don't, you need to get it now. Now, this book, it was first published in the 80s and has not been updated since. So, or actually, it might be early 90s because of the fact that it's got James Burton with his signature model guitar. So maybe this was 89. No, it's 90. So this came out in 1990. So yes, this has great history, great photos. It has a bunch of old, Fender ads. It has, pictures of James Burton, playing with Emmylou and Ricky Nelson. You've got shots of, Albert Lee playing a Rosewood board telly back in the 70s before he got his 53. You've got, stuff on Keith, nice color spread. This is a great book. It's not expensive. It was $16.99 when I got it. So, but anyway, I'll put a link. Fantastic book. I don't know why the pages aren't worn off of this because I read this thing over and over and over and over and over again. So it does have some information that is now deemed incorrect. Like he talks about F tuners being made by Shaler, and yes, they were made by Shaler starting in the mid-70s, but the early F tuners were not. And there's some other little small discrepancies that, and again, it just had to do with the information that was available at that point, pre-internet and such. But this is a well-written and still very, very valid book. All right, this next one, Arlen Roth's Complete Electric Guitar. So this is, I bought this new, in a bookstore in the 80s. And this, again, was, one of the early guitar books that has both instruction and licks, and also has some about guitars and amps and effects and what kind of, strings and picks to use and stuff like that. And so this book influenced me a lot. And another reason why I have this is that I recently interviewed Arlen Roth, and it just brought back to how important Arlen Roth has been to guitar education with the books that he's done in the 70s, then the audio tapes, the column that he did for Guitar Player magazine, all through the 80s and into the 90s, the Hot Licks videos, it was like, with Eric Johnson and Andy Summers and Brent Mason and James Burton and on and on and on. So and another thing about this book in particular was this was one where I started to learn about Telecasters, and also there was this discography in the back that recommended a bunch of things to listen to, like Mike Bloomfield's Super Session. It's like I learned about it from this book, and that's the reason why I bought it. Another thing was this talked about Roy Nichols playing with Merle Haggard. Carl Perkins, Jerry Reed, Merle Travis, Clarence White, Chuck Berry, Steve Cropper, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Duane Allman, Mick Taylor. I mean, he had this discography of stuff that you ought to check out as an electric guitar player. And half of the stuff I wasn't aware of. And so it's because of this book here that, I had my eyes open to a lot of stuff. Also, when the lounge interview comes out, you'll love it because Arlen's a great interview, and he's a great guy. All right. Fender, The Sound Heard Round the World. There's an updated edition out now that but it's I highly recommend it. So Richard R. Smith is one of the foremost experts on Fender history, and he has been the curator of a Fender exhibit in Fullerton, California. And my goodness. And there's videos of him. And if you look at any Fender book that's been done in the last 25 years, he's probably been quoted. I mean, he's part of the bibliography, or he's been interviewed. Richard Smith is one of the greats. And there is no greater, kind of history of Fender than this book. Again, this is another one that's really highly recommended. Richard Smith really lovingly, told the stories, and he gets down to being able to date Telecasters by when they started changing out the screws from flathead to Phillips, because it didn't happen all at once. And, and when they got, different pieces of machinery and punch presses and all sorts of documentation, and even talks about amps. What are some of the cool amps to own? Not just, oh, this is vintage, it's cool, but just like, what are the cool amps, dating, this is where I learned about, dating, Fender amps and parts, using the codes that are on them. So this is a fantastic book. Again, this is highly, 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 recommended. So, and I've got a bookmark that is a painting of my dog Mabel that was done by my mother. So there you go. Hi, Mom. All right. This is the one non-Fender related thing in the collection. The Beauty of the Burst. The Beauty of the Burst, this is one of the first Japanese, written guitar books that's been, translated into English. And to me, this book set the bar for all future guitar books that came out afterwards, because you had someone that was looking at the grain of woods, how it was cut from mahogany, looking at neck shapes, looking at weights, looking at, all these other things, looking at, the composition of the pickup covers, this really set the bar. And I think, Yaz, or as he's sometimes called, doesn't get enough, credit for how much he's influenced, the vintage guitar world and guitar journalism, where he really set the bar. The photos that are in this book are amazing. I mean, if you're a Les Paul guy, you should own this. You probably do own this, but I mean, this is, really, fine guitar journalism. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful book. All right. Now this one I'm saved to last, because this is the most expensive book, and it's very well done. It's done by Nacho. So this is, and it comes in this fancy, little holder here. This is the Blackguard Book. So this is for maniacs only. But, if you're a Tele maniac, these books are like $150. I don't know if he still has these or if it's completely out of print. He was doing small reprints and kept kind of jacking up the price. So, which, he's full right, to do that. And of course he's making Blackguard copies, himself, Nacho guitars that are being played by like Julian Lage and Ryan Warner, and Arlen Roth is playing a Nacho guitar. In fact, he's been playing a Nacho guitar for the last 10 years, almost exclusively. But this is an amazing book. And of course, you've got all these crazy detailed photos. I mean, this is the Bible for Blackguards. I mean, Nacho did an incredible, incredible job. And yes, it's $150, but, see if you can track down a copy. You can ask. I asked for it for for Christmas one year, and my mother-in-law. So thanks, Anne, for the Blackguard Book. So beautiful. I mean, there are so many cool pictures of Teles and Tele players, and oh my goodness, it's a fantastic, fantastic book. All right. So those are my book recommendations, and then sticking with our guitar lick, at the end of every episode that I've had, requested. So first I'll just show you, what I was playing at the beginning, the episode, which basically just playing, that shape, where it's, kind of an add 9 or a 2 or a C2, whatever you want to call it. And then the other shape was, I was just pulling off the first finger, and you get, which sounds really nice. And then I was doing a big stretch to get, so that was that. Let me show you something else too. So I was, one of the things I really enjoy doing is, when the kids and my wife, aren't around, I enjoy watching music, concert DVDs or videos, whatever, streaming. And I sit with my guitar, unplugged, and kind of play along, and sometimes, pick up some fun licks. And so I was watching the Eagles, recent concert that they did. I think the show is actually from 2017 or 2018, but it's the one that's at the Forum, and they played it on ESPN on the 4th of July. And I was watching that, and they were doing Peaceful, Easy Feeling, and Joe Walsh was playing these really cool steel guitar kind of fills that were not bender or bending dependent, and I thought they were really cool. And so I was kind of stealing some licks from Joe Walsh. And now Stuart Smith was also playing on that tune, but at that part of the song, it was Joe Walsh was playing some fills. And if Stuart played this, and then I apologize. So here's the first one. Turn the echo off. So playing the key of E, and you have this E chord shape, and you're going. And I'll play it even slower. Then another one that again I think Joe played was this. That's just a good ringy open thing. And now what's cool to do there is figure out how to do that in in not an open position. So if you, so take that and kind of learn how to play it. But anyway, here it is originally. And one more that was on that song. And it's just a variation. Yep. And if you want to get more if you want to really take it into a close. That's fun to take that lick and play it in a non-open position, and it'll get a little better stretch out of that. So there you go. So there's some fun licks. Play along with DVDs and streaming stuff, and it's great to have a guitar in your hands. When you hear stuff, and then you can pause it and what was that lick? So thanks to Joe Walsh and Stuart Smith and the Eagles for those little licks. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.